For some people, social media helps them to gain social support. It helps them to find friends, to maintain those relationships. It helps them to find information that they otherwise wouldn't. But on a societal level, we don't see those benefits. Social media isn't making us less lonely. Social media isn't healthy for our democracy. And social media isn't helping us to access good information and necessarily make good decisions. Something that we talk about with adolescents are the harms of what we would call problematic social media use. So this is a type of social media use where it's interrupting really important things like sleep or time with your family or time with your friends. It's kind of becoming this all-consuming focus of your life. What's really troubling for me is that that is the most harmful way to use social media, that more problematic, interrupting type of use. But those users who have really high problematic media use would be considered the most profitable users for a company. And so they're designing social media in a way that pushes us to be that less healthy user because that's where they make the most money. If someone posts something on social media and it's this really moderate, even keel, kind of vanilla take on politics, that might be something that a lot of people agree with. And it's not particularly inflammatory. And so the algorithm isn't going to promote that or kind of spread that type of post nearly as much as it is going to spread a type of post that is more polarizing, is more extreme, maybe is going to elicit a strong reaction. And that's because, again, social media companies are going to profit off of our engagement. Social media is designed to exploit our cognitive and our social kind of hardwiring as humans. A lot of the focus is on how children and teenagers are harmed by social media, and they're certainly more vulnerable because developmentally, there's a lot of cognitive and social development that happens in those early years. But adults also experience harms of social media. And this is, I think, where some of the discourse about social media needs to be safe for minors or we need to ban people under 16 from using social media is a little misguided because it forgets that adults are also vulnerable to harms of social media. The other thing, though, that sometimes is a little misguided about the conversation of making social media and making technology safe is there's this really popular narrative that this is parents' responsibility. And I think this loops back to those lawsuits we're talking about, is that this is not a helpful, this emphasis on parents and the role of parents in making technology and social media safe doesn't work. Because what we've done is we're basically, when we put this in the hands of parents, we're basically pitting this like David and Goliath situation between parents and these giant tech companies. So what we're seeing right now is there's about 1,600 plaintiffs involved in right now, about 22 different cases, where they are trying to sue social media companies, like you said, claiming that the design of these platforms has harmed teenage and underage users. What's really interesting and important about these cases is that social media companies have kind of been legally untouchable in terms of any sort of accountability for the effects of the platforms on users. So the reason for that is in the late 90s, we had a law passed called Section 230, and it basically said that online platforms like social media companies could not be held legally responsible for what third-party users posted. So for example, if I run a blog, I can't be held liable for what someone posts in the comments of my blog. But because social media companies don't produce the content on the platforms that we're consuming, like we do as the user, social media companies, there hasn't been a way to legally hold them responsible.